Hello. Just getting all set up. Give me a minute. Once again, forgot a whiskey glass, so teacup it is. A teacup it is. Make sure that I'm all set up here. Hi. Hello, everybody. Like to get started a few minutes early, not just so I can pour my glass, but so that when Pierce gets here, I'm ready. This is how I get ready on a Saturday night for an interview series. Can't believe people let me do interviews. Thank God this isn't my real job, and so nobody can fire me. Anyway, hello. How are you all? There are already a lot of you here. I know, this has been a long time in the making. Well, Pierce and I in the same space. We go back. We've been friends for several years. We are very, very different creatives, so I can't wait to interrogate him about all of that. I hope that you have a drink. Non-alcoholic is fine. Alcoholic is fine. Oh, and there's Pierce. Pierce, I have to hit the request button. Hold on. I don't know how this works. Let's see. It's gonna work. Here.
Hey!
It worked.
Victoria, how are you?
I'm good. I just poured myself a teacup full of whiskey.
Well, I'm, what am I, 9 hours behind you?
You're at noon. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here, so it's totally socially acceptable. What have you got?
Well,
wait,
it's lunchtime.
Okay, wait. You've got the, like, Ron Swanson stuff. I got the
yeah.
14.
Oh, you got Oban 14. That's really sweet, though, and nice.
I mean, in my defense, like, I'm in a country that's very shut down, and alcohol doesn't seem to be considered an essential service, so I'm working with what I've got.
While in America, I was able to order a crossbow. Yeah, so I have a crossbow.
I'm not surprised. I was just telling the people who got here early, because there are already like almost 600 of them.
Yay!
That, this has been a long time in the making. Back when I thought I was going to do a podcast and I realized I was way too much work, we were going to podcast together so that we could discuss our very different plotting styles.
Our writing styles, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we also, like, we had a conversation about your podcast, God, maybe 4 years ago in some, that place where Kevin Hearn dragged us to in Arizona, that taco joint with tequila, right?
Yes, there was tequila, and I was like, gonna do a podcast.
Hi, guys.
Yes, everyone, lots of amazing people here. We're gonna give them a few minutes to all kind of file in since they're in a lot of different places. We've got like South Africa. I think we've got some Eastern Europe. We've got France. We've got all across the globe. So wait, so it's like noon there?
It's noon. It has just reached noon.
Are you having a productive Saturday?
Yeah, I have been. I've been actually outlining, Victoria. I know it's a wild phenomenon with me.
I'm so proud. Like
sadly, every single person in my writing life has issued a compliment in that exact tone.
You know, you were gonna come to the dark side at some point. You were gonna come over.
But here's the thing: when I write the book, will I ever adhere to the outline?
Well, no, an outline is a lie that you tell yourself in advance. Like,
see, that's what the alcohol helps me do, and that's why I usually just go like right forward into the book, because I have to summon up the courage to inside to feel that thing like once more into the breach.
Yeah.
Every time I forget how to write a book again.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is like no matter how many books you write, I just finished number 18, and like
what?
I never learned
what?
from it.
18 published?
Yeah.
You have 18 published?
Yeah. So well, Addie will be 17, and then the last of my middle grade series will be 18.
See, I don't get how you have the RAM. I have 5 published in like, it's like drawing my blood out every time.
I mean, to be fair,
I'm left on fumes.
Your books are fucking long, dude.
Who do we have to blame for that?
I don't know. So we're going to get like into the outlining, not outlining. The fact that I don't understand, I'm in denial that you do what you do without like extreme amounts of planning. It scares the shit out of me.
I'll wait till you get to my notes process and how I keep my notes.
Is there order?
No, I have sticky notes from 12 years ago. I personally think we should like look at the technology that allows them still to have residue on them that are still sticky after 12 years.
Why do I picture you like Charlie in Always Sunny in Philadelphia with just like a room covered in red string and Post-it notes? Is that how it looks?
That is literally my outlining process, not my writing process.
Yeah.
Every moment is like every day is I'm on the brink of despair because I,
It's
you know,
crazy.
but otherwise I don't want to write. Otherwise I'll
Is
never
it
write.
for
Otherwise
you?
I'm
It's
bored.
you need the mystery, like you need the
Yeah,
okay.
I need to show up and be entertained. Like
You need the danger, right? So my whole
yeah.
philosophy is that like as an outliner, as a sane, rational world builder, I like to think that what I'm building isn't a path, but it's a map, so that I don't wander
Mm.
off a cliff. You need the prospect of potentially wandering off the cliff.
I want to wander off the cliff because my like internal stakes are the same as the characters, and I'm like, oh shit, like how do I get out of this?
Oh
And
my
so
god.
then reverse engineering that is the most fun for me. So I get to a cliff and I'm like, well, that cliff was inevitable; it existed, and I think that's fun because it creates like a reality in the world to me. I put them in a situation that's so hard to get out of, and then you're like,
No, the
let's
tension
re
is there.
it's like how do you it's like how do you create a maze, right? You start at the center where you're trying to get, and so a lot of times I'll write a scene that I just want to write,
Yeah.
and then I'll actually write the context to it probably 6 months later.
Okay, wait. So I'm going so out of order here, but apparently, so do
This is
you.
my writing
I
process,
know.
so this
So
is
do
good.
you? First of all, two questions. Do you write out of order?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. I was gonna get real nervous if you were writing what you've been writing in order. I'm in out of
Oh,
order right now.
out of order was only for the last book. So out of order, I had 5 POVs, and so I wrote each POV straight through,
Yeah,
and I didn't know how they fit together.
yeah,
And then all the POVs kind of interlace, but I didn't know how they'd fit together. I just kind of had the feeling. It's that Kurt Vonnegut line: the story is a shape, right? And
yeah.
so the only thing I really have in concrete when I start is the shape of the story,
I was gonna ask,
and
what do you have?
literal.
Like going into like Dark Age. Like, what do you have?
I have all of the seeds that I planted in the first
Okay.
book, so Iron Gold in that one, and then all the seeds that I hadn't yet come to fruition in the series, and so I would cross them out as I addressed them. So I would just keep it up above the desk, so it'd be like a couple hundred things up
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
I just cross it out. So my way of outlining is way more of like I acquire a lot of quotes. I
yeah.
acquire so it's more of a tonal outline. You know, when you compile
Mm-hmm.
you read a Euripides quote or something, and you're like, all right, this is completely, I don't know, Severo or
Yeah,
whatever character you're choosing, and I think that that tone goes far more into describing how they're going to act on the page and what they're going to do and what their plot should be like
yeah.
than
But you don't know what they're gonna
outlining.
do.
No, I have a feeling.
I
Um,
have not had enough alcohol for. I'm like getting a hot flash by
this
like.
is chaos. You're right,
So wait. So here's
Jess
the
Menry.
question: do you write any things that you then lose because they don't work?
Oh yeah, like I'd say for each page you see, I've probably written two more,
Okay, so
and
you do have a kill file.
I have a kill file, but I don't have a file would allude to the fact that I have a system. Um, so I
You're a
have,
unicorn.
I have bytes out there in the cloud. Yeah, they're out there. I got a hard drive that I covet that I've had for like so long that probably still has like corrupted Kazam music files on it.
So I
You
can't
know?
believe I'm going to ask this. So when you start, I'm going so out of order now because I'm just so distracted by this. Um, when you start Red
Am
Rising,
I giving your blood pressure raising?
I am getting hypertensive. So you start Red Rising,
Mm,
you not only like don't know how Red Rising is going to go. Do you know it's going to be three
no.
books in that first arc?
Yeah, I had a feeling it would be 3 books mostly because I like the classic three book structure because I think it provides a lot of opportunities for subversion of tropes more than anything else because trilogies have a baked in arc, right? I think we even if you don't know them, you know what Star Wars feels like, you know what
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Rings feels like. So you already got instinct on it, so I knew it was going to be that. But no, I had kind of this idea in this line, the couple lines I wrote down, and then I was going to create a huge Bible for it. I have one of those. My sister always gets me like these wonderful like leather bound notebooks every year for my birthday, and they're full of like totally incoherent ramblings because I will get really passionate about it for 4 days and then lose interest and then come back like 2 years later and be like, oh, that was an interesting idea.
But the process clearly works for you. So I guess this is interesting. So if I'm getting this right, you understand your characters and it
Yeah.
becomes a discovery of what they do. So you keep their core, almost their ethos and their
values, whatever, so that you can detect as you're writing what's true to them. So you keep the authenticity of the characters while the plot is a mystery.
My fundamental guiding, I guess, maxim would be don't be afraid to be literal.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when I feel what the characters are going to go through, the kind of thematically, then I make the themes literal. I make it all literal. But the only thing is, since it's a first person perspective, I then they can't comment on them being literal, because that's kind of the hallmark of like bad writing, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can't show and tell and show and tell. And so being literal with it, I have a feeling with it. And this is why music, like, do you like have music for certain characters you write to? Scores.
So I like scores because they cover that full emotional arc.
Totally get that.
I love a score because I can look at one film score or one show score, and you can pick out the romantic tracks and the action tracks and the things like that, the moody ones. So I find it's like a shorthand.
And you'll repeat the same song 70 times?
55 to 60
yeah,
times.
Yeah.
Also, I love the number of people asking us to collaborate on a book, not seeing my hypertension.
I would drive her crazy.
Psychotic. Well, I don't even
Psychotic.
get into the fact that you also like write for TV film kind of stuff, and I don't understand how, because that requires planning and Bibles and all kinds of things.
Oh, that's pulling teeth.
I was gonna say, is that's like your nemesis? We gotta back up, dude. We're 10 minutes in, and just like you have forced me to abandon my structure.
You're my Virgil here. I'll follow you through the woods any day.
I'm so stressed out. I remember encountering you on Twitter. I mean, we knew each other, but when you tweeted about like not having a plan, and I was just like, you heard a record scratch in my life because of all the books that I would have thought had a plan. I mean, that's a testament to you.
Well, it has a plan, but I just don't write the plan down. Like, I always know how I want certain things to go. Yeah. Like the demises and the deaths are always kind of like some hunch I've always had.
Yeah.
But and I won't. But I look at the first draft as my outline, so that's why I go at it. I go at it like a savage with as a crazy man on meth with a machete carving his way through a jungle. That's what I do. And then once the path is kind of hacked, then I'm like, all right, now we can think about some planning, some structure.
So is your first revision process intense?
My second draft is my favorite to write. Because my first draft I look at is, you're paving the path and you're doing the physical representation of the journey and the plot arc, right? And then the second time through, you're really seeing the character plots and the themes and all the kind of coming together. And you realize, because I think with secondary characters, it's incumbent upon the author to, when you're not having their POV or following their actions, to also create their own 3-act structure with that secondary character. Yeah. And it's sometimes just a sentence, right, off screen.
Yeah.
How many romances have you kind of like got done kind of lightly off screen?
Internalized,
Yeah, but you get away with it, and you're like, wow, they shipped that couple, and I'm like, well, I didn't put much effort in, but but you can't, because you'll distract from the book, and then your books will be 800 pages.
I mean, I like it because it's. What you've done, though, is and I feel like people can tell from your references, you have a very strong internal compass when it comes to narrative. So you're playing along lines that you know well, maybe not for your story, but in terms of you have a good internal guide in terms of how story structure works, in terms of you've done a lot of I feel like you've given yourself some of those building blocks to understand even what does a 3-book structure feel like? What does, an arc feel like?
I think, you end up citing pop science for a lot of this stuff, and you go back to that 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell, researched. And I really do think that's key. When people ask me how to become a writer, I think I always go back to read.
Yes.
And also, when you're writing, I will admit it is really hard to read, because you don't read anymore, you vivisect. And that's real. Actually, no, you dissect, because you kill it, because that's not a living book anymore. You kill that shit.
It's awful.
Oh man, but I'm reading Something Wicked This Way Comes right now again.
Oh yeah.
And I gotta tell you, I'm not vivisecting that. That thing is a beauty.
But don't you feel? I feel like it kind of ruins a whole aspect of just enjoyment. But then it makes it even more special when you discover something that makes you forget you're supposed to be vivisecting, right? When you just discover something that makes you forget and you just fall into it.
When you get dazzled.
I'm so
That's why you do it, right? It's why you do it.
Okay.
It's that feeling of completeness.
We're gonna get back to all this. I obviously have to have a moment to calm down from this, so we're gonna go. I like to start interviews.
I'm already through a drink. This is
I know,
great.
right? Me too. It was a small drink, but you are making me drink more.
I got a bottle, so we're good.
I try to make this bottle last for multiple interviews. We're gonna see how that goes today.
I only got one interview.
I'm not sure you've ever told me your origin story. I like to hear the origin story. Like,
oh God,
how we get here? I mean, don't get, like, give us the rundown, right? Like, you're a young guy in the business, 5 best-selling novels. How do we get here?
All right. So I left Dallas when I was like 18, straight out of high school. And I'd moved around a bunch already as a kid. So I'd lived in 7 states, I think like 13 houses across 7 states, because we were always following my mom. So my mom was one of the first women to run a TV station in the country. And so we were following her up the career path. So it was really interesting because the roles were reversed in my family. You know, my mom has got, I'm giving you the whole story.
No, I want it.
Okay, so my mom's from a family of 10. My dad's from a family of 5. And they're like, you know, small town Iowa, both from like 2,000 people in their town. And then they met, and my dad proposed to my mom. Here, we're getting all of it.
I love it.
My dad proposed to my mom in Iowa, and she said no. She was going to business school,
Okay.
but also he was the jock of the school, and she just came. And so she had a mission. She was the first person in her family to go to college. So she had a mission to graduate with three majors in 3 years. And so my dad was not part of those plans. So she said she'd only date him if he got straight A's. So he got straight A's for the first time in his life. He eventually proposes to her. And she says, no, I'm going to Colorado because I got into business school there. My dad says, I'm going to come along. And she says, no, you're not coming along. If you move to Colorado for yourself to have your own career, then we can see about continuing this. So he moved there. 2 years, she made him prove himself. 2 more, like 1 or 2 more proposals or something. And then finally, you know, so I come from that background.
You come from an overachieving, very, very driven background.
My girlfriends have a hard time. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Because
high standard.
Not that my mom's not the sweetest. She's the sweetest. But anyway, we moved around a bunch, and so we're following her career. And I think that's what bred the love of stories, right? Because if any author starts talking about their career and how it started without talking about how they found books, I mean, they were my only friends. Yeah, I could take them all with me. And I was reading, Brian Jocks at the time, and all the Star Wars extended universe. And so then at 18, I just started writing because we moved up to Seattle, and I didn't have any friends there. My parents bought this house in the woods, and I was really lonely and watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You do.
And and I was like, you know, totally Team Spike, except for some real problems. But then I started writing, and I got an offer for my first book, which was this epic fantasy called Anymore. Oh, here we go. We're back.
Hold on. Okay,
it was so crazy.
I'm in the middle of nowhere in France. This is the first interview I have stepped out of my closet space to be in the main place. We should be fine now.
Oh, do we get a tour of your house in France?
No.
Tour of the house in France. Tour of the house in France. I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. You froze for me on my first book was.
Oh, my first book was called Requiem for Light, which was this terrible, like, epic fantasy with men called paradors and women paradors riding Pegasuses and phoenixes around, and they throw lances at each other, and it's like I don't know. Anyway, so I wrote it.
So much joy. Like, so much joy. I was going to be very angry if Red Rising was your very first foray.
No. This book, the first one I wrote, was 750 pages. And my mom didn't even read it. Like, I gave it to my mom and asked her to read it. And so, you know, a couple of weeks go by, and I come in, and she's, like, watching our Bachelor trying to calm down, and has a glass of wine. I get a glass of wine. I'm like, so have you read the book? And she says, not yet. And then, like, a couple more weeks, she's still watching The Bachelor because she's just unplugging. I get, like, so you've read the book? And she's like, yes. I thought it was amazing. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, what was your favorite part? And she's like, it's really hard to choose. I'm like, well, who's your favorite character? And she's like, well, and I'm like, was it Bailey? She says, yeah, Baelius was amazing. I really saw a lot of you in him. And I'm like, Mom, Baelius wasn't even a character in the book. You lied to me. So the first book I wrote, that bad or that long. Yeah. She cared. But then anyway, then I wrote 5 more after that, and Red Rising was my 7th book. So I didn't get published till my 7th.
That makes me feel a little better because you got published. You got published about a year and a half. You're like a year and a half younger than I am.
Oh yeah, when I was what were you when?
Well, I was 19 when I got my literary agent, and I was 21.
You beat me to the punch. What are you talking about?
I was 21 when my first book sold.
21? Okay, I wrote Red Rising when I was 22. I sold it when I was but no one wanted to buy it. I couldn't even get agents to represent me. I had 130 rejections from agents because I just don't like me.
Are you serious?
135 rejections. Yeah, I kept all of them printed out, and I kept them in my bathroom for a long time, put on the walls so that I could shit and look at all the rejection. I'm not even kidding. I used to be a little psycho, and so I'd like look at that, and I'd think like,
stopping.
And so that's the only thing. Anyway, kept writing, and finally, Hannah Bowman, who's my agent now, called me and said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say.
Can you hear me?
I think there are two kinds of writers. Yeah, we had like a crackle. I think there are two kinds of writers, aspiring writers, right? The ones who get 130 rejections and quit, and the ones who get 130 rejections and are like, fuck you, you're not going to kill me.
Fuck you. I mean,
all right,
man, we keep freezing.
I don't know why we keep freezing. My signal is perfect.
It's all, these people are right too. It's in all the good parts, right? When right when we're too much for Instagram to handle.
I think we're crashing our Instagrams. This is what's happening here.
Yeah, pause again. Sorry guys, I still love you too.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I was just rambling, so probably best that I got cut off.
I don't know why this is happening. France is very angry at me tonight. I have like perfect service. We're gonna keep going though. So
it must be a strike.
It must be a strike. Knowing France, it's some kind of strike. So Red Rising is like your 7th.
Red Rising was my 7th book. That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God. How old were you?
Yeah, 22. I was writing two a year. But it channeled. The rejections are good because I was at I moved from like a private school in Iowa when I was 13 to a really kind of intense private school in Dallas where there was a lot of wealth and it was very odd experience. Yeah. And so a lot of that combined with, the rejections and just having a hard time being disillusioned after college, right, is kind of formed Red Rising. But that's good because I was finally able to write a book for me because I was copying before. You probably know. I was doing like a mashup of like Ray Bradbury and Neil Gaiman. I do a mashup of George R. R. Martin, and it's what you do until you figure out what you
find your own voice. Also, before anyone freaks out, I've turned off comments mostly because like it's supposed to conserve the bandwidth so that we should be fine. People can keep sending little hearts, but I want to make sure that we're able to get the interview for them. So
I'm gonna subsist. I'm gonna subsist up these hearts.
Yeah, exactly. There's just
oh, look at all those hearts. Look at them all.
We know everybody loves you. Those are the comments that are coming in our love and support. And this is primarily an interview series between the two of us anyway. So I'm very sorry to everyone. It's because we're both so popular tonight.
But I do kind of live for that one guy that drops an asshole comment.
I know.
You get to go after him and scold someone. I love scolding someone.
I still am so weak every now and then that like I'll do an interview and it's like 95 amazing comments and dude 96 is like, she's got a 5 head. And I'm like, oh, and I like go home, which is like a 4 head plus 1.
Oh no. No, you don't.
And I'm like, oh.
You have a 3 head.
I realize I could never be an actress because I can't with that shit. Like.
Oh, that's astronomically destructive to the ego.
I mean, I know we feed on it. We feed on it as creatives. We feed on the attention. Like those little hearts in the corner make me so happy.
Yeah, but one person comment, like you read the wrong email, you're going to be writing the next book for one comment.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Exactly.
Oh,
but
man.
It's just that to like the point is, you write and you try to think, what do people want to read instead of what do I want to read? And then at some point you think, I got to write what I want to read because I'm not going to be able to control any other part of this process. And then that's how you get Red Rising.
Well, yeah, and then I also think that there's that lure within the period you're writing a series to forget that. Yeah. To forget right? Because the input you get, particularly for Darker Shades, I mean, it has to be staggering to keep your own vision. And I'm sure you find yourself constantly reminding you, like, oh, they signed up for the experience I want to give.
You know, though, it's interesting, and I really want to hear your philosophy on this, because I have about a 5-year gap between having written Conjuring of Light and then returning to the series for the next trilogy.
It's really 5 years?
I know. I don't understand time. It's just
wow. I feel like that. I feel like I was just reading an arc of that.
Right? It's crazy, but I'm struggling even now
Yeah.
with, like, I'm pretty good at understanding that I'm writing a story that I want to tell and it's for a specific audience. And it's hard, unless you finish a trilogy before the first book comes out, you're going to be subjected to opinions on what should happen and other people's perspectives. But I have this neuroses where I'm really scared I don't know how to write this world anymore. Like, I'm scared of, like, the story that I'm telling, where I'm like, because I've written, like, several books in between, like, how am I going to find my way back into that voice? Because the fact is, I think people forget, is books become static entities, but the authors continue to change.
Yeah. How did you find yourself dealing with that?
I put all the noise out of my head, and I put on some of my favorite scores that had been from A Darker Shade of Magic.
Atta
and
girl.
I just, like, thought, why do I love this? You know, I went and I wrote a short story first. And I fell immediately into the short story, and I thought, oh, so it's really just the fear I have to get out of the way of.
Yeah, and I think you have to go back to the source, right? Which is that weird, I mean, it's a feeling, right? It's that feeling that keeps you up reading at 8:30 a.m., you know, when you told yourself to go to bed at 12.
Yeah.
For me, and we're talking about writing, we go back to that root, that feeling is why I can't outline, is because then I get afraid. Then I start thinking too much. And what's more overactive than a writer's brain? I mean, have you ever been in a room and not been the alien? You know?
Oh, God.
Fuck, I always feel like the alien. And it's not.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how you overcome it. I mean, do you feel it's difficult? Like, because obviously Red Rising is this series that has continued over the sixth book is not out yet, as many people in the comments pointed out. But, like,
Not
how
out
do you
yet.
deal
No.
with the
Working on it. Yeah, working that right now.
constant, like, influx of opinions? How do you tune it out?
I don't. You know, it's whatever. I mean, do you grow your own vegetables?
Yeah.
Do you grow anything you eat?
Yeah.
You're very conscious of what you put in that soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you that conscious of what you put in your brain?
I mean, I'm less disciplined about my brain than my body is the answer.
And that's crazy. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I subject myself to all sorts of self-flagellation. Yeah. But in the end of the day, the only thing that helps me is cavernous silence. You know, is we're not meant to exist in this world that we've created, like this, with our consciousness spanning like spider webs.
Yeah.
We're you know, we're mammals who learned how to farm. And I think that the more I think of my life immediately, you know, with people around me, the circle I've created, that's how you beat that demon, is because then you're not taking in that stuff. Instead, you're refurbishing your soul. You know, you're taking care of you, which is the font of all of this, right? You have to have friction. I mean, any good artist has to be somewhat disillusioned with the pop culture of their day, because pop culture is shit.
Yeah.
It just averages out to shit. And I'm sorry, if you like the Kardashians, watch it, but it's shit.
But we create because we think that we can do better than what we see in some way. We're upset either with a depiction, with a story. We think that's not how I would do it.
And you might not be better than anyone else, but at least you have your opinion. You're doing what you're saying. But the problem is we get too much information, too much access to reviews, too much access to input, positive and negative, that we're either searching for that mild dopamine affirmation, you know, or we're some way wondering, you know, that trepidation you get, that throbbing of the heart when you fear you're about to step on a landmine of a bad review. We don't deserve to have that. You know, you're not supposed to see that. You know, it's just like, what would be the worst superpower to have? Mind reading. Fuck that.
Ew.
Oh my God. How many people would say I have a 5 head every goddamn time I see them? It'd be horrifying.
So I noticed you posted about this, because I think I commented and I messaged you when you posted that you were basically, like, going into the drafting space and you were going to, like, shut out the world. And I remember posting, like, I want that. Like, I want that discipline, because the times when I have shut it out, while I miss the narcissistic, you know, dopamine ping, are the times when I get to just live between myself and the story.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
you come out of it more. Well, I always find myself, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as a writer, kind of, we're young and we're supposed to be, how do I say it? Accessible, but also cross-marketing mavericks and
Oh
mavens.
yeah.
We're supposed to be digitally savvy. It's unfashionable to be a Luddite. I'd prefer it if we didn't have digital phones.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's great for everyone, but I'd prefer that. Yeah, I kind of just would like to use the GPS on my phone, and like the FaceTime. FaceTime would be nice on my flip phone. But it's because I think that here's my working theory. You got your id. No, I'm kind of jacking a little bit of Freud here, and without the sexual connotations.
Yeah.
So you have your id, and then you have your subconscious, and then you have your consciousness. And so I think that consciousness is what we tap into every time we're trying to get that little dopamine hit. We're checking our phones or getting that itch, whatever. And that consciousness is great for human interactions and extroversion and things like that. But subconsciousness is where art is created. Yet, if you and I often link those things to attention span. So if you've looked, there's like recent Hopkins study that if you look at your cell phone in the middle of a task, it takes you 5 to 10 minutes to recalibrate to that task.
Yeah.
Right, 15 minutes to get to the parity of where you were before, 15 minutes to get back to the concentration level. And so I think that level of distraction impinges upon creativity, right?
Sure.
Because here you are, is like you're trying to get to the subconscious and function in that flow, where you type 9 pages and you're like, oh my God, finally I feel like the evil monkey is lifted from my shoulder and I can breathe air without feeling like I'm a failure.
I call it my self-loathing meter just goes to 0. I'm like,
self-loathing meter? Yeah. Do you have like this Looney Tunes meter in your head?
I do. Where I'm like, oh no, but if I do it, there's like no greater feeling.
Mine's more like an evil gargoyle punched on my shoulder that no one can see, but
Your
I feel it in my vertebrae. Yeah, it's my albatross. Feel it in the vertebrae, So then I think so what I try to do is stay at the subconscious as long as possible. And that has to do with digital fasting. It has to do with, all these things. I mean, look at yoga. Yoga is supposed to be this internal search for peace, balance, and harmony. Yet instead, we send a discordant message inherently at odds with yoga by publicizing our yoga poses in sexy manners. What does that show? That shows a society eating its own tail because we're searching for peace while projecting, which is inherently that if you were writing a character, that character dies a horrible fate. That character is Narcissus.
Yeah.
He drowns in his own reflection, right? We know that fate.
Well, but I use the Narcissus analogy a lot, which is just like, as creators, we're also expected to have this forward marketing angle. But what happens is, especially in today's society, all of the boundaries that we need to be walls to create become porous. And everything is constantly seeping through them and creating that structure, as you were talking about, that fasting of technology becomes harder and harder when it's like, well, shit, I can't take this month off because I have to, on the second day, I was supposed to post about this and I have to do an interview on the 9th. And it becomes harder because you become afraid of not self-perpetuating your own accessibility.
And how much of that is due to expectation that you do that? And how much of it is due to your fundamental belief that you need to do it?
I mean, I think they're all conflated at this point, right? Where's the expectation? Where's the external versus internal expectation? I think a lot of us, because we play the gods of our own worlds when we write fiction, we want and we reach for control in all of its shapes. And I think that there's an illusion of control, that if we are just accessible enough and available enough and there enough, then you won't forget about us and you won't forget about our books. And therefore we will hold on to control, an illusion of control, where we actually have no control whatsoever.
Maybe this is where we diverge.
Yeah.
And this perhaps could be the difference in our writing styles. Because if I'm on a plane and it's going down, I'm not freaking out.
Yeah.
Because it's out of my control and it's my time to die. If I am lost in the wilderness and it's my fault, I'm freaking out. because I'm supposed to be smarter than this, supposed to be better than this, and I fucked up.
Mm-hmm. I am both of those. I'm freaking out because I'm convinced I can fix it.
And for me, I'm not convinced I can fix it.
Yeah.
I feel as though I get what you're saying. For about like the first chunk of my for my writing life, only the last like 2 years, I kind of changed a little bit. But for the first chunk, I thought I always had to be accessible. I thought I always had to be. I was obsessed with control. I was obsessed with winning board games because I'm supposed to be smart, and so I should win. You know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm at a trivia contest, I want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started realizing that, you know, all these little victories, like these victory.
Yeah. Which it's not, but the way we perceive it.
Then, and you start seeing all the things you sacrifice for victory. The little small things of irritation your friends feel when you're an asshole at a board game.
Yeah. But I'm going to counter you with something here. I'm going to counter you with something.
All right, fair enough.
As the elder of the two of us.
I'm getting drunk.
No,
I love
I'm going to counter you with this. The ability to step back without fear of losing your audience, having a series successful enough that you feel like you can step back to create and not have to be accessible is in and of itself a privilege. Because
it's a total privilege.
And I think so much of my fear, like I have become successful, but of those 18 books, not all 18 of them have been successful, and they weren't successful to start with. And so I have this built-in fear that or this complex that it needs to be in my control, even though I didn't control which of my books became successful. But I've seen what happens when I'm not successful.
Yeah, sure.
And I just think I never want to go.
You know, that disappointment of a book going out of print.
Exactly.
That's fair. And all my dips came way before, because that makes a lot of sense. Products, nature,
now
nurture.
That you're published, though, you know, you've got this very successful series, and even though you took all those hits before that book was published, you know, on the surface you have immense publisher support, you have an immense audience, and then that means you feel like you can take a step back a little bit because it's proven that like your books and your readership and your publisher will carry it. But if you're a smaller author, which I'm not going to be, but I'm saying for anyone out there who's watching,
I mean,
if you're a smaller author, it feels like accessibility is a price that you have to pay for relevance.
It is. I mean,
scary.
I think for the first 4 years, I spent probably 2 hours a day on social media, maybe more. And that's not necessarily me. I don't like the pithiness of Twitter. I don't like the vibe of Instagram. You know, and those things. So that friction is really hard to maintain creative vision within. While you have that going on, I agree. And that war, it's always constant. But I've made my decision. I was going to say,
I need to stood by it.
And I
have a lot of respect for that.
It's kind of the reason I don't do more Instagram lives. It's kind of why I don't do, you know, because we were talking. I remember you and I were both talking about podcasts early on, and I think it would be very interesting and fun. And I love engaging with the audience, but I don't like engaging on digital. I like talking with people.
I know,
and you do too. When you talk to fans, man, I'll talk to you from the side. Like I've said hi to you during signings. I don't think you saw me. Like you're in. Right, because you love that interaction because you've shared a secret with them, you know. You know, and when you see it in their eyes, you know. When you see it on the keyboard, it feels.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Different.
Like, to be honest, I went back and forth on everything, and then the pandemic happened, and I thought, like, God, I need to at least talk to. I was like, I need to at least talk. To. Yeah, sorry. It was like Instagram.
Oh no, and I get that, and no,
it's great.
Oh, if. No, I get the talking. You know, and one of the things, a sense of community. You know, and there's all generation. There's always within each generation of writers, a couple of writers where they foster the community around them, and you've always felt like that to me, which has always been fun. Yeah, no, it's just.
But it's hard.
I know you're
there's a cost, you know, and like I'm so glad. It's just really funny because when I originally set up this interview series, I was like, I'll do it 2 to 3 times a week, and my publicist was like, please don't do it more than once a week because you have work to do. And I was like, it's fine, it'll be easy. And I messaged her today, and I was like, thank God I'm only doing it once a week because like I care about, like I have questions written down and I care about making the connection. I'm very sorry to viewers for the technical difficulties. Like I care about these things because if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. And I want it to be meaningful. And I respect that like we're both our own little hermits. And it's kind of like I like it having an authentic conversation. Like half the reason I wanted to start this series is because
so fun.
I'm just curious. Like I just am like, I want to make creative brains, you know?
When you gave me an excuse to drink booze at 12, so what am I complaining about?
It's what I'm here for. It's what I'm here
for.
I want to know, in the time that you've been published, I want to know, like, what is a challenge that you didn't expect? Like, what has surprised you?
Having to do with interaction. Sorry, we should. Having to do with
singing "I'm Gonna Kill My Instagram." I want to know a challenge. I want to know about a challenge since something surprised you.
Hey, could you spark my imagination and tell me something that someone else has had a challenge with?
I have had a challenge with the accessibility, with the expectation to be extremely public and extremely always open because I am sometimes open.
I did not expect I did not expect so many memes. And it's really hard when I see a good meme not to write to a meme. Like there's some really funny memes out there of like readers' tears and stuff. And I do get because you know the inner sadist a little bit, and I've let the sadist fly a little bit recently. And so there's been memes building up, and that's kind of fun. But I mean, that's not a challenge. The hardest challenge I would say is maintaining the voice of the characters while continuing to grow it. Because I would say it would be the leap from one trilogy to another trilogy. So with Red Rising, it's a trilogy that was meant to be by itself, and then halfway through it, I started having ideas for a second trilogy because the first one follows kind of the hero's journey, and then the second one inverts the hero's journey and challenges the thesis of the first ones. And can it be tested and can it survive its application? And so coming up with that was difficult. And also the leap book, the fourth book, Iron Gold, I switched from one POV character to 5. And I think that's a
sadist move. That's a masochist sadist move, but
well, I just wanted to be respected, Victoria. I wanted to be respected and show that I could do complicated shit.
Yeah.
And this is now what. Still getting hearts though. Anyway, so I think that I think that it was. Did we lose? Are we still on?
Here.
We lost you.
I'm here.
Victoria.
I know. Hold on.
You are shrouded in darkness. I will bring you the light.
Oh, it turned it around. I turned it around.
I brought you the light.
I'm falling apart today. I was here the whole time, though.
This is an allegorical technical difficulties.
I have not even had that much to drink, but here we are.
I would say that the hardest thing to deal with is messing with the recipe for success that worked in the first 3 books. For the new ones, because artistically I did not want to repeat the same thing I did earlier because that's gross. And so I wanted to change it. And when we talk about, characters returning to the same world, I kept the characters within my own age range the entire time and bumped their year. So had the time lapse between series 1 and series 2 work to match the age I'll be when I finish the next series. Jesus. So my main character will be the same age I will be when I finish Iron Gold.
Do you do that for trilogy. Shits and giggles or a sense of authenticity or what? Just challenges?
No, just shits and giggles.
I love it.
I literally like. I love drawing maps and showing no one maps. I have like little fake. I have like whole books full of maps of fake worlds, of fake mythologies. I'm not getting paid for that, but
no,
it's fun.
It's just fun. It's just a reminder that you write for you.
Well, and that there's cooler worlds out there than these.
Also, I love that though, because I actually do think one of the greatest challenges that I faced while writing Shades of Magic was returning to the world with each book and trying to make it a new story and make it
what
a
new
better
spice?
Story, you can't just go up. You have to change. I never wanted to write the same story twice.
Well, here's the problem with the new Star Wars, right? They increase the stakes literally instead of. Great. So, like, if you look at Return of the Jedi, which has a lot of problems, right? but it's still awesome. Why? Because the penultimate scene isn't just a fight between Darth Vader, the Emperor, and Luke. It's Luke questioning. I mean, it's Luke's resolution with his father, which has been a 3-movie structure, right? But not just that. It's Luke wondering if he did leave too early, if Yoda was right, if he will go to the dark side. But not just that. It's having to substantiate the claims he made at the beginning of Return of the Jedi that he's now a master. My God, we've done, and then they throw the Leia thing in there to lure him to the dark side. So not only is it a test of all 3 of those things, it's wondering if he'll fall to the dark side and fulfill like the fears of the fears of Yoda, or will Obi-Wan be right? I mean, it means so much, right?
There can only be so much external stakes. You have to have those internal stakes as well. You have to have the internal complications, which can lead you a lot farther than just saying, well, this is a quest book and we have to get from A to B.
So true. And I feel as though the new Star Wars became quest books.
Yeah.
With already, with
a couple amazing fight scenes. But those are those are physical movement, not internal movement.
Fight scenes are all well and good, but who cares?
Who cares without the story? So
100%.
So here's the problem. I have a question that I ask at the end of all these interviews, and I'm not sure you'll be able to answer it.
Ooh.
Oh. I'm not sure you'll be able to answer it, because the question that I normally ask is, we don't get to choose which of our books is most popular. We don't get to choose which of our works will outlive us. So the question that I normally ask is, if you could choose which of your works would outlive you, what would it be? But you've got the Red Rising series. So what I want to know is, if you could choose between Red Rising or something that you haven't written yet, is there something that lives in your heart that you hope that will be the thing that outlives you? Or if you only could pick one, would it be Red Rising?
I feel it would be betrayal to all the people that have invested their hearts in Red Rising to say it would be anything other than Red Rising.
Yeah.
And I believe that in a fundamental level, because I have to care a lot about. I'm not a diligent. I'm like extremely OCD and ADD, which is a huge problem. OCD was a huge problem in my childhood.
Yeah.
Colossal, and a lot of that's been kind of put into the books, and so I can never put anything out that I'm not obsessed with. Yeah, it might not be good, but I love it, And so for Red Rising, I've given 10 years now of love. Yeah. And so that would be like, that'd be like asking a man if his wife of 10 years, whom he loves, and his brother of 10 years, whom he loves, if he traded in for a possibility.
So perhaps here's a better way to phrase the question for you personally.
Oh, no. I'm not indicting the question. I'm just saying.
No. But it is a challenge for you, because most of the time when I ask the question, people have various things to choose from. So here's how I'll phrase it.
Hey, you don't have to rub in that you've written 18 books, okay, asshole?
Look,
okay.
I gotta stay busy, okay? I gotta stay. I'm older than you, and I gotta stay busy.
By
so
what? Like a month?
It's like 6 months. It's like 6 months. Here's how I'm gonna phrase it. When I finished writing my next book, Addie LaRue, I had a moment where I thought to myself, if I never write again, at least I wrote that.
Cool.
And so I want to know, is that, do you feel like if you were to finish the Red Rising books and never write again, would you be satisfied? Or are you hungry? I know, right? So
no.
Do you know that there's something out there that excites you as much as Red Rising?
I know there is. So I have 3 loves in my life. 1 is Red Rising, and 2 I've not yet written.
See?
And I know what they are. I know.
It's not disrespectful to Red Rising to say.
Oh, no. But it'd be disrespectful to say I love them more.
No.
It's kind of like.
Did you ever
have stuffed animals and you had to tuck them in at night and you had to kiss them, but you had a favorite, right?
I never told them that.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. And you probably kissed them first and last.
Oh yeah, a Pongo
right?
And Purdy.
But you kissed them. But you kissed them all the same amount.
I did, but I paid more attention to where Pongo and Purdy were.
See, but that right there is my writing. I have to kiss my books all the same amount.
It's adorable.
But I would always kiss Red Rising, so it would be Golden Sun, because I had just an absolute whiz writing that.
I'm excited to hear that you have future loves.
They're way more in your vein.
I can't wait.
In terms of, from what I've seen of your writing, I don't know what you actually love deep in your
I love bad
hearts.
people.
It's a very naughty book about, oh God. Anyway,
I was saying, you're gonna get yourself in trouble here. There are like 700 people watching.
I am. Well, yeah. Well, okay. It's not science fiction. It's fantasy, and it's so yeah. But it's not epic fantasy. Well, one of them is. I gotta stop. I gotta stop.
No. What we'll do, we'll hang up this call, and then I want to hear all about it. That's
Oh,
gonna
man.
murder everyone on the internet.
Fastest hour of my life.
I think we have to always have future loves as writers, because like people don't realize we're working on like a lead, right? So we're constantly planning the things which will be our loves in 2, 3, 4 years.
But we're also weirdos who started writing because the grass is always greener in some imagined pasture, right?
Oh yeah, it's a combination of Narcissus and like the sheer greed of wanting what you don't have yet.
I think it's like, for me, possibly. That sounds like a Narcissus Agamemnon combination, but I feel we're more like Narcissus meets Odysseus, but not that Ulysses. You know that poem he wrote where Ulysses is an old man and he's standing for one last adventure, one last sail off into the night, one last. That's it. It's exploration.
I mean,
I don't know what waits.
I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to stop. And the next day I'm like, I'm not going to write today. And I look down at that blank paper and I think, but what if? Like, there might be something.
I know. I gave in last week and did it. Yeah. I did an outline, Victoria. I did this 13-page outline of this movie. And it's just, I won't have a chance to write it because I'm writing Red Rising, but a friend will write off the outline. And it's so exciting. And I was just like, you know what? Let's just get a little drunk and have fun.
Yeah. That's the blessed thing, though, because I think it can be really easy to forget when you get distracted by everything else. And at the end of the day, it's just us having fun.
Yeah, I know. Dude, we get paid to like make up shit.
Yeah,
I get to sit in my pajamas and, well, imbibe in certain California products. And at like 9 a.m, I am being a diligent worker.
You're being a creator. You're being a creative mind.
A model of responsible productivity while smoking the reefer. Kidding.
I love it. No.
No, I'm not.
I am saying nothing on this matter, except we'll all get through. What's interesting, though, saying nothing on this matter, I can't imbibe or smoke and create. Like, it's the thing I do afterwards to turn off my creative brain.
Oh, that's madness.
I know, because I'm the organized. You're like chaotic evil, somebody said at the beginning of this, and I'm like lawful chaos.
I feel like I'm chaotic neutral.
I don't know. The fact that you engage in no outlining in like a 6-book so far sci-fi series, just.
Yeah, but I don't do it for an evil, or I don't do it for a plan. It's kind of like I do it because I just like to suffer.
You like chaos.
I like chaos. I know. I'm like I'm some like weird thing in the Matrix that just thrives on like problems in the code. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. You're like, let me create an explosion and see what the ripple effects are. You're like the domino tipper.
What's the worst? Well, what's the worst that could happen? Reddit freaks out on some of my stuff. I mean, they've done it already, so
You just play.
Well, yeah. It's interesting.
Man, I could pick your brain for another hour. I don't trust the internet to allow me to. I wanted to talk to you about so many things. I know.
I mean, I got time if you do.
Okay, wait. Here's what I'm going to ask.
It's all good.
Here's what I'm going to ask you.
Literally, all I'm going to do is go swim and play with my dog.
Okay. Here's what I do want to know. Did the screenwriting come after book writing?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of by accident.
How did it happen by accident?
Well, I was in I started in investment banking and found it to be a very challenging profession for my moral compass. And then ditched that and then went into politics and found that to be somewhat challenging to my moral compass.
Yeah.
I worked on a campaign, was the body man for a Senate candidate. And so I got to sit on some really interesting stuff. So drive senators around for a year. I was like driving senators around, driving the head of the Department of Agriculture around. And it was just a weird job because here I am fresh out of college just putting on, I gained like 25 pounds over the course of the campaign.
Yeah.
Well, because I was like, the candidate, I was his body man, so we went everywhere, and he just wanted barbecue all the time, and I love barbecue, so we hit up every barbecue joint in Washington State. Yeah. So anyway, where was I even talking? What was I even
Political
talking
detour
about?
on the way to screenwriting.
Oh, screenwriting. So I moved down. So anyway, then I started working in like startup tech, and then I was in an office park feeling sad about my life because I was commuting an hour each way to there, and I was literally spending more money on gas than I was making because I was making like $10 an hour for like 2 years, and it was just like, when I was 16, I made a lacrosse camp one year and made like a gob of money. And then the next year, my coach found out that I made the camp and then made his own camp. And I was like, you bastard. So he took my stream of income, but I survived off that stream of income for like my early adult life. And then so I had all these terrible tasks, and I was just sad. And then I realized, I really wanted to explore stories, and novels weren't working out because I'd written 6 and no one wanted to read them. Actually, I'd written Red Rising by that time, and no one wanted to read it, And so then I moved down to LA and ended up being a NBC. When I found out it was an NBC page, so they told me that they had an opening in 3 days. If I could be down there in 3 days, I could start. So I packed up all my belongings in my car, drove down there, and then lived in my because I couldn't afford rent in LA because Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I lived in the workout room of my political science professor.
You are the embodiment of chaos, Pierce. Like, this whole story is the embodiment of chaos. We have
I know.
Screenwriting.
I know. And so, like, I was living on his air mattress, working as an NBC page, and my job was literally seating the audience on the Tonight Show. And so you ever see 30 Rock? I was Kenneth Page. I had a peacock tie. I had the gray suit. I literally, my job was giving tours of NBC and Universal lot, and then, seating people on the Tonight Show, which is basically Tetris with assholes because they're all mean to you. Anyway, so screenwriting happened because I moved down to LA,
and of course, if you move to LA, you have to screenwrite.
Well, I was 6 months into, I guess a year into being a page, and then Red Rising finally sold, and I thought I could quit my job, and so I quit my job finally. I was like, yeah, no more page bitch work for me. Ha ha! I'm beating the world. And then I realized you don't get paid as an author, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, certainly not at one time.
So my lacrosse camp money survived me my first 2 years as a writer, which, like a professional writer, me. And it's so true, right? You think you made it, and then you're like, oh, here's $5,000. Good luck.
Exactly.
And so it was very interesting. I'm laughing my ass off for a combination of reasons. But anyway, so I got into screenwriting to try to work on the connections I'd made and make money on the side. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I've had tons of things bought as a screenwriter and a TV writer. None of it's been made.
No. I'm learning this the hard way now, is that, like, you're considered successful not if shit gets made, just if shit sells.
It's bonkers. Like, and so people think I'm successful. I'm like, no, I fail every fucking week. Like, every week I have a meeting where someone's like, not for us. The CW's are like the CW already did. I'm like, but like, it's a space show on the CW. It's not the same thing. They're like, it's Hollywood.
No,
timing,
Hollywood is the most
timing.
Insane. I once had a network turn down a project because it was like, it had gay characters in it, and they were like, well, we already
what
have,
year was this?
Like last year.
And see, that's what they do. We already have our LGBT quota.
We already have one of those.
Yeah,
and I was like, Jesus Christ.
I know, because it's a place where nuance went to die. Give me the and see that we've created our own problem. Like, Star Wars was amazing and is one of my favorite cinematic experiences ever, but it also destroyed the stories we like seeing on film, because now all we see are these huge films, in Marvel or not. I like Marvel movies. I don't love them. I like them. But the third acts are always like the same thing, like EMP fucking explosions and everything like falling down, and it's just like bad Bond movies, right? And it's really well done. It's really well shot, and the characters are cool and fun and everything.
Sure, but it's spectacle.
Yeah,
It's spectacle, not
but
nuance.
the auteur cinema of the 70s died because of
Yeah,
us, like nerds.
I know.
We did
No,
this.
I
We
know.
broke the system.
I
We
know.
fucked up. So it's
So
like
did you obviously enjoy screenwriting though?
yeah,
Kind of, no?
no, I do like it. I do like it because I think that screenwriting is much more like oh, okay, you're building a Rube Goldsberg device.
Mm-hmm.
So for any, am I saying that right? Yeah.
Rube
Rube,
Goldberg.
not Rube Goldberg.
Rube.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, the marble, the switch flicked by the bedside, the
Yeah.
marble rolls down and agitates the goldfish, who creates
Yeah.
a hydroponic mill or something. You know
Whatever
what I
it
mean?
is.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like one of those. So screenwriting's that.
Mm-hmm.
It's creating like this mechanism that moves and works, and you're basically it's far more surviving off of mysticism than anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a magic. I mean, I'm mixing metaphors, but it's a magic show.
It's a spectacle show.
Yeah, like you're showing a great huge thing and pretending there's a world behind it when there really is no world behind it. There's really seldom thought behind it. And that's the hard part about screenwriting, is remembering that I don't have to create a novel for every screenplay I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have these outlines. I know, weird. I don't have outlines.
I
I'll
know.
have like tone projects. I'll have like 5 pages on a character in a screen thing, not a screen play I write. But yeah, in a Bible, because that's what you usually sell. Yeah. But then like the character still feels somehow less real than in a book to me.
Yeah, because you're not exploring them in context. You're just like,
no, you're not.
Here's their life story and personality.
Yeah.
And you're like, but we learn in context.
So I find screenwriting to be extremely agitating at the same time.
Well, it's an exercise that you can't make it. Like I had a conversation yesterday with one of my publicists where she's like, the thing about screenwriting that's maddening is you can't make it work alone. Like what do you mean? Can't. At the end of the day, if you wrote a book and nobody wanted to buy the book, you could still publish the book. You could still do it.
Yeah.
And get it to an audience. But like for a TV show, for instance, like you can't do it by yourself.
No, and that's been my impediment along the way. Is like, there's probably like, I don't know, there's probably realistically only 4 or 5 steps you have to hurdle. It feels like 17, and I've gotten like, second, third, fifth, sixth, seventh, one.
And they don't come 17th? In order.
Oh no, you fall in the 17th. Yeah, so it's like
It shoots and ladders.
Yeah, and the shit but the problem is all the stories you create, all those worlds you create, then they don't get out there. And for me as an author, it's where's the catharsis? Like where am I? I'm in this to get my jollies off, and I'm not getting my jollies off.
There's no getting off. You're like, and it's not like all the way there, and you didn't get it.
Yeah, and it's not like the privilege is such that it's just like, ooh, money, feed my appetite I'm going to buy a castle. No, it's like, all right, you might be able to like, shop now at Whole Foods.
But the problem is also, like, you're also promised, like for me, I'm like the heathen writer who at some level thinks that the truest form of a story is visual. Like I love TVs and movies, and I keep thinking like, oh, but it would be the best rocks off. Like if I did it, if I got that step, like it would feel so much better than anything else. And so that's what keeps you hunting for it. And at the same time,
perhaps.
Like, oh shit!
Yeah,
trying to up the game.
We're
here.
Escalating this. I want more people tuning in.
Oh my god!
She's the most ridiculous.
She's like, what the fuck is this?
I woke her from a nap, my baby.
Oh no! Look, you got all the hearts just started flowing up the right.
Oh my god!
Got a flurry of them.
I was one of those guys that was like such a dick to my friends that called the dogs like their children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was such an asshole. I was like, oh, you're just a victim. You're a victim of a societal impulse away from like the nuclear family.
And now you're like, this is my daughter.
Now I'm like, hail family. Hello.
Like, take me to the goddamn park or whatever.
Oh my god, she wishes. Like, actually, they just reopened in LA, really? But I'm still suspicious of this plague-ridden populace.
Like that person. I feel like Tom Hardy in Mad Max, where he's like, "That's bait. Like, I'm not going in the first wave. Like, I will not be caught in the first wave opening."
She would be bait, wouldn't she?
No. She's
oh, it's been super scary lately. We've had coyotes prowling for her. So I live in LA, but I've like got like a little farmhouse here, and so it's like pretty.
You can just say you're fancy, Pierre.
No, it's pretty it's pretty overgrown. So I think I have like bunny populations and gophers, and I have three. Oh my God! Last week, Victoria, it was amazing. There were these 2 falcons that engaged in warfare with a pack of crows.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Just
it was
acting out
awesome.
one of your
And
space fight sequences, like massive space battles in the air.
I'm gonna take you through it.
Yeah.
So one day I was writing a particularly violent scene, and then I hear this rah! Outside, and I come outside, and these 3 hawks the red-tailed hawks that usually are in our area, having a good time, killing the local rodent population, just living their best lives. And then all of a sudden I see, and they're usually there, and then I look to what is it? I look to the east in Mordor, and the crows, the servants of Saruman.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Sauron in that case.
Sauron.
Sauron. What do they call it? Dun means from Dunland or something.
I am not a Lord of the Rings person, so this is just shaming me. But
oh my God, sorry. It's been a while. No. I've been deep in Gormenghast, so I only have so many multisyllabic things stored in my memory. So anyway, this crow mine from Dunland or something. Anyway, someone in the comments will get this. But anyway, he was just hanging out. So when I see this horde of crows coming from the east, and I'm like, oh shit! And so for like 2 weeks, it was the reign of tyranny. Shit all over my house. All the vegetables eaten. Vegetables eaten. Oh, not yet. At this point, I'm suffering. I'm like Job. I'm like, what did I do to bring this pestilence upon me? Was it because I missed my deadline? Of course it was.
Yes.
Evil gargoyle on my back being like, drinking my lifeblood. And then I hear another scream like about 2 weeks later, and I go outside and I see one of these hawks who've been chased away out of their territory by these crows. And I see him tussling with 2 crows. They're fighting. They're aerial dog fighting in the sky. It's wild. It's crazy. Feathers aren't literally flying, but it was like a Michael Bay bird dog fight, And then this falcon's getting his ass kicked by these 3 crows, and it goes east. And then I hear, and it's in dire straits, and I hear this distant sound of, and I look to the far east, and the other 2 falcons hawks are coming, and I'm freaking, I'm losing my mind. Because I was just like writing space battles and shit, and I'm so like, I'm like,
I just picture you, Pierce. I just picture you being a tiny bit stoned, watching this go down, and it translating
tiny bit. By this point, it's 10 a.m. and I'm lost. I'm gone. I'm in the woods. I'm needing a Yeah, I'm Dante. I needed some guidance.
Diagrams, and then they came around this way, and then the south dart came up.
Yeah, I'm huffing glue and shit. Anything that'll work. And so then, these things, so they're flying. I'm just standing out, cheering for the falcons or the hawks. And then they come back, and they've taken back over. Now
they've taken the north.
Yes, the animal kingdom has come back. Everything the light touches, symbol of the sky. It's fantastic. Anyway, that's been the highlight of my.
I'm so glad that you.
My life recently.
I got bit by a chicken a couple days ago. So.
That sounds unfortunate.
They're vicious.
Yeah.
Birds.
I've never been bitten by one.
And we should respect them.
Oh yeah. I don't tangle with birds. I've seen Jurassic Park. I know the theories.
They're tiny dinosaurs.
Tiny dinosaurs. Yeah.
Well, it's time for you to go take your dog.
I hope I witness some more aerial carnage. Personally,
I hope you do too. I hope you do battles. You're amazing.
You rock. It's so fun.
I can't wait to see you in person again, and hopefully we'll
chat.
All
right, next time let's do this a better bandwidth so we can rip up some of these comments. Love you guys. Sorry we couldn't answer your questions.
Thank you everybody.
Y'all rock. And fantasy and sci-fi rule.
Awesome. Go please outline a book.
See ya.
Bye.